Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about framework laptops. They have made a huge announcement recently, so let's dive deep into it. Now, before we go into that, before we understand why the heck every world is excited with this laptop, we have to understand Framework. Now, Framework is a very young company, like literally only 3 years old. So they had a dream. Now, the dream was to make a long-lasting laptop because most of us who are like around in their 30s, they do not know that laptops used to be a device that actually lasted same as a desktop. Meaning, back in the days, if be it Compaq, be it IBM, be it Lenovo, they used to make laptops that actually lasted. And I mean lasted as in decades. Even though the products that were in them, they were getting outdated, they were still lasting. Like they were like, bro, this is it and it lasts. Like if you ever seen like F1 engineering, you may find like people are using ancient laptop. Why? That's the reason. Like in 70s, they developed something, it worked. So like, why the heck buy a new one? It just worked and it lasted so long. They're like, damn. And I'm talking about today's, like as in today's F1 and today's car engineering companies. You may find like random ancient technology laptops for that reason. So we had the technology, we had the knowledge to make something that lasted, but we do not do it anymore. So they are like, hey, we're gonna make a laptop that lasts longer compared to modern Apple, who are like genuinely, Apple started as a company that was like, damn, your laptops were good, long lasting, reliable, repairable, to like, oh, you opened a hinge too much, the screen fails. To like, oh, there is dust particle, oh, bye bye your keyboard. Oh, there is like, moisture in the air, bye bye your repair warranty, because we have moisture sensors, as in like they have a color pad that changes color based on moisture. So if you are in a humid environment or like in Mumbai or Calcutta, your laptops will be auto defaulted. Like you go for repair, they're like, no sir, it has liquid damage. Like, dude, no water fall into it, moisture. So instead of having those sort of finicky devices, they want to make something that actually lasts. Now, what is the benefit of that? Well, here's the reality of it. We want to reduce e-waste. Now, thankfully or unfortunately, we only have one planet, meaning we have to take care of this puppy. So people are like, what if we recycle? Recycle is the last step. You should never, like your first step should not be, I use a thing and then I recycle. No, you should be reduce, meaning how much you are consuming, that should go down. Reuse, meaning you should, try to find some use of it, so you do not buy either, more things. So it also helps in reduce part. Reduce, reuse, then you recycle. So how do you do that? Well, many people, especially in business world, they do not need to have a laptops that like, keep getting updated, latest and greatest. They're like, dude, I'm good, I'm sorted. But the damn thing does not last. Like fundamentally, it just does not last anymore. So if you can have a laptop for a surprising large amount of people where they're like, dude, the laptop is here, it will work for 5 to 10 years. They're like, dude, I'm sorted. They're like, what about new latest and greatest? Like, dude, I don't need to. Like, and not to mention today's technology is genuinely that good, where it's like even 5 years from now or 10 years from now, you're like, dude, it's more than good enough. Heck, I'm using ancient CPU FX8350, it still works. So it's one of those things that is like, reduce. You can reduce it. How do you reduce it? You make it long lasting, and it also saves money, even though you may have to pay more upfront, because you do not have to just eat it every few years. That actually saves you money in the long term. And we used to have this. This is another aspect. It's not like some magical technology. We had that. It's just throw it away. Now what we have is use and throw. Meaning laptops back in the day were actually strong enough, robust enough that if you had liquid spill, most of the time it will be fine. It's like, bro, we have drain holes. Like we got this. Like some engineers were like, bro, I got this. You have a laptop, you have a keyboard. Keyboard is like, I want to be a swimming pool and you pour water on it. I understand you have that temptation. We put drain holes. Drain holes goes around the motherboard so it does not contaminate the motherboard or damage it. So it's like, we had the solutions. We are just like, what if we created garbage? What if that garbage was Apple? Then people will buy it. Then other companies will like, hey, why make good long-lasting laptop? We can also make garbage, and people will buy that garbage, and everybody will burn. So we used to have awesome things, now we have garbage. So this company is directly trying to do that, and also trying to fight for right for repair. Now, right to repair is a very critical aspect, because companies will give you brain damage. They will tell you, if we give the schematics, which mind you, we used to have in 70s and 80s, it was a common thing, we used to have schematics. It's like somebody can, reverse engineer. Here's the deal. No Tom, Dick and Harry can reverse it. That's the clear part. Only big companies can do that. Now, here's the interesting thing. They already have it. Like, do you genuinely think that there is no division in Lenovo that's like, bro, new laptop came out from our competitor, quote unquote, whatever competitor, they buy it and open it up and see it? That's the first thing that every company does. First thing, trust me, like there's a whole division of reverse engineers just for that. Unless you do something truly magical, they will not even try to copy it. They'll like they will have a look at it. It's like, oh, what are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? And for those people, not having schematics does not even slow them down. Why? Because they're getting paid. So trust me, that's not an issue. But if you have schematics for repair shops, they can repair it. They're like, they're gonna hack it and all this. Like, is it in their best interest to do so? No. And hacking is not easy. Hacking is genuinely difficult task, and trust me, the people who can truly do hacking, they don't do hacking on basic things. Why? It's not worth their skill time. It's like somebody is getting paid $1,000 per hour for some computational job is gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna hack some laptops. Like, no. All it does is makes your product shorter lifespan, and then the company is like, oh, your product, like back in the days, Apple was actually known for this, whereas like you brought your laptop to Genius Bar, they will fix it. Now what you brought it, they're like, sir, you should sell your kidney and buy a new laptop. That's how Louis Rossmann became popular, because literally people are like, hey, I opened the hinge screen for no longer works, and Apple is saying we have to buy a new assembly and all that. He went on like, dude, because Apple is so pathetic, they actually had a ribbon cable, how every other laptop has it. That ribbon cable, to save money on that, they shrunk it by a few millimeters to save money on that, like few pennies literally per piece. They shrunk it, and now because it does not have enough flex, so when temperature changes, done. He literally opened it up, use a pen, bent a pin, done. Back in the days, they actually used to be repairable, long lasting. Now it's garbage. And because Apple is selling this garbage, every other company is like, why the hell I should make actually long lasting equipment? We should also make garbage. So everybody suffers. What this company, basically Framework, is like, what if I bit slap them all? So what if you decide which plugs you want? What if you are like, hey, I get it, USB-C is the future thing, but all my products, all the things that I use is USB-A. They're like, what if you put USB-A? It's like, hey, I get it, like soldered RAM is a bit faster, but what if like, I do not want that. You know, I don't want that like 3% extra boost. I want my RAMs to be replaceable by me. This company is like, have fun. What if you're like, hey, I get it, like, new laptop have this Hulu product, but what if all I want is upgrade my CPU or like, whole core? Just replace it, sir. Replace from 11th gen to 12th gen. Enjoy, sir. You can, by the way, go from 11th. You could have bought a 11th gen one, and now you can upgrade it to 13th gen today. You don't have to throw away the whole laptop. You just have to like point the motherboard. So instead of having e-waste of like whole laptop, you just have a small e-waste. And again, that also can be reused because they designed it that way. So that's the firmware idea. It's like, let's bit slap every other laptop manufacturers. So what about their history? It's like 3 years now. So they actually listen to their customer. Because they are a first-time company, they're not going to give you the polish of like every other company. It's not going to happen. But they have shown, like in last 3 years, they have shown that they actually listen to customer. They actually, it's like, okay, you are pissed off by our hinges. We're going to make better hinges and going to sell you the hinges, or you wait for the next iteration where everybody has the better upgrade. Here's the deal. Other companies are like, oh, your keypad literally gets destructed by sand. F you. So that's why they are actually listening to customers. And again, because the system is designed to be replaceable, repairable by you, not by like going to a tech shop, by you, they're gonna sell you. Or like if a product is genuinely bad, they're like, hey, we get it. It was our fault. Here's a new replacement. You can replace. And like, it's like, I want perfect product. That does not exist. And from a startup point of view, this is magical that they have balls to do this. Battery, people are like, dude, battery is good. I get I'm good, but it does not last. In 1 year, I'm like, bro, it has lost 50% of its power. They're like, okay, we have better development in chemistry. What if we create new battery pack, which goes exactly in the same place, but this puppy lasts, instead of 1 year, it lasts 2 years. Less e-waste. Then like hinges, LCDs, like people are like, bro, I get it, glossy looks crisper, but I want matte. They're like, okay, got it. All things, they literally, because here's the deal, testing in a lab will always give you awesome results. Testing in real world is completely different thing. So they have real world testing data, and outcome was like not as good as they thought. But again, that's real life. So they are improving everything they could improve it. And they are like, okay, what about that motherboard that you yoinked out? We got the reduced part. You're reducing the requirement of a new laptop to just one part. But what about this part? It's completely working many times, especially if you're upgrading for other reasons. So they're like, hey, you can 3D print a case and this will work. Why can you not do that with other laptops? Because again, they do not have the BIOS support for it. Again, the laptop motherboard expects battery voltage to be there, expects chassis system to be there. So it has a hinge detection, whether hinge is open or closed. So that's how it goes into wake mode or sleep mode. So you have to tweak the firmware. It's possible, it's very easy to do, but other companies are like, what if we F the customer? They're like, hey, here's a BIOS specifically built for that. So if you want to run the old motherboard outside of the case, so it will not look for those things that it will only find in a laptop. Change the BIOS, everything is fine. Now you're like, hey, what if I don't have a 3D printer to print out the case? They are like, awesome. They're literally working with Cooler Master to make a case. So all your past product, buy a Cooler Master case, which is like $35. Done. You have an actual working low power PC. Now like, oh, it's a low power. Yes, deal. For more than enough people, they're like, shut up and take my money. Shut up and take my money. for media purposes. If you are a writer, or if you have some person who's just like, who just needs a basic PC, shut up and take my money. And not to mention, this is also energy efficient compared to any other desktop. So awesome, small case which you can directly do, and all the parts are available for public. Now this is another aspect where Apple is just like, let's F the customer. So what Apple does is like, we're gonna give you parts for repair houses. What they do is like, you have to sell your kidney, you have to give your house, we're gonna plant a dynamite up there, and we're gonna put a dynamite up your ass. Like, I'm not even joking, they literally, on the paper they do that. So dumb people are like, no, see, Apple is saving us. It's like, no, they don't. They're like, you read the contract, read the 18-page or 180-page contract, and you will like, dude, why do you need that much information? Why do you need us to send a product to you, then only you're going to send a replacement product? Like, no, security. No, it does not work that way. Now, what this company is like, what if we have to create a new battery? It's like, here's a new battery, I'm going to sell it. Now, like, what if somebody else sold that, top quality, actual genuine part? Is like, okay. Firmware is like, okay, I sold you a part, I already made my money, all you can do is sell it to someone else with a little bit of profit for yourself. So what's the worst can happen is customer gets something for a bit higher prices, but they still get original. Like, what if they do this and that? It's not worth it. Nobody's gonna go there. It's like, oh, this battery is there, I'm gonna like hack it and do this. And it's like, nobody got time for that. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And because you are directly selling it, you can also mass order it. So price per unit also goes down. So at that point in time, it's fundamentally unviable. And like, if you ever wonder why Casio watches are so cheap, that was the reason. They figured out if they make their devices cheap enough that it's not worth to hack it, it's not worth to hack it. There's like, yeah, here's a battery. Everybody gets it. Like, you can literally build an awesome security camera if you know how to do USB wiring with their webcam module. They are just selling it. It's like, hey, buy it. Apple is like, what if we, you do something, this and this? Like, dude, it's a battery. It's a battery. It's not nuclear launch code, just a goddamn battery. And if I mess up, I mess up. You will not be held accountable for that. You legally cannot be held accountable for things that you actually sell. Somehow you're like, oh, what if the repair mess up? It's like, dude, you do not cover your warranty. You're like, there is moisture, so F the customer. So this company is like completely opposite. It's like, hey, you want motherboard, just buy it. If you're like, hey, I don't want that, I just like this design, buy the motherboard. They won't even care. It's like, do you have the serial number? It's like, I don't care, just buy it. You are buying it, I'm making profit out of it, I'm happy, you happy. So all the parts are available for public, awesome. And they are actually profitable. This is another aspect of it. Many times companies will say, oh, see, we have to, anal the customer, because if we do not do that, we will not be profitable. Like, Apple used to, back in the day, used to be actually repairable. Again, it was surprisingly fragile, but it was repairable. Like, you can just swap out the battery, swap out the display. These are the two most common things. They're like, what if we have encryption algorithm in this? Why? Why the heck you need encryption algorithm for a display or a battery? And again, here's the deal. You are wasting your money to create those systems and lock down the supply chain. Like, literally, you are creating hassle for yourself. It literally would have been cheaper. It's like, hey, we know people want to replace the battery. Here's the deal. Here's the original equipment manufacturer that we have contracted. We are, instead of ordering 10 million pieces, we're gonna order 11 million pieces. 1 million pieces is available. This is a low cost. Buy it and replace it. So all the repair shops will buy bulk from you, and everybody one who wants to be like, technical, they can just buy it from you. There won't be a market for replacement system. And you're like, hey, here's a serial number on the box, you can check it with our website. Like, MI used to do that for their battery banks. It's super cheap, but they're like, what if we have encryption? So even if you replace battery from one to another, they won't work. You literally spent engineering $1 million on that. So I'm really happy that this company is actually growing. That this shows that, hey, instead of effing the customer, what if you're like, hey, you make me money, I take care of you. How about that? How about I take your money and I give you something that actually is yours? So I'm really happy with this. And again, they had a feedback where it's like, most people do not use Ethernet with their laptops. They're like, they removed it, but they're like, somebody's like, bro, sometimes I want it. They're like, okay, we're gonna give you. And because again, this company actually gives a damn, it's 2.5 Gbps. And again, if you basically make a desktop out of it, this becomes really usable. So the whole new announcement is laptop 16, the 16-inch one. Rather than 13-inch, they are going to 16-inch. Now, the benefit of that is expansion modules, where they had the modules going from 4 to basically 6. So you have 2 extra. So that's really awesome. So meaning you can collect whatever you want. And be mindful, they also sell you SSDs for that. So for example, you may like, hey, I only need power plugs from left and right. So you put 2 USB power delivery modules. And after that, it's like, bro, I don't actually need anything. And I don't want anything. Many times you may be like, hey, I do not want other people to just plug things in. You're like, hey, what if I just plug it and plug it up? You can plug it up with dummy module, or you can plug it up with the SSD. You can have that if you need to. So that's there. And they have keyboard as a deck in 16 inch because they have enough room and a space that this deck is configurable. Meaning the biggest problem with people are, there are different people. There are some people who are like, bro, numpad, my jam. Other people, I don't like numpad. They're like, okay, both of you are happy now. It's like, how the heck does magical technology has a dude? It's a skinny thing. It's a skinny thing. You can just yeet it out of there. See, you can just yeet it out of there. It's like, you need it, you put it. You don't need it, you don't put it. You don't buy for it. It's like as simple as that. Like, see, you can just move it. And like, hey, I need numpad on this side because I'm using this hand. Awesome, just move it on there. It's like, hey, this trackpad I want in the side. I would like it to on this side, but again, you can do it. It's doable. It's awesome. It's doable. And they're going to use 200-watt power delivery. Power delivery has been upgraded from 100 watt to 230 watts. So they will be using that 200 watt because this puppy will have dedicated GPU. That was the biggest limitation of the 13-inch model. It did not have dedicated GPU. And for many people, many applications, you need a GPU. So that will be taken care of. And because of the modular design, this will also give the company advantage. Company could be like, hey, Intel wants to sell us ARC, we got this. If NVIDIA is like, we're going to sell you NVIDIA, we're like, we got this. If AMD was like, we're going to sell you Radeon, they got it. So selection would be there. First time in a laptop where you may have over a few years, a plethora of selection is like, which GPU exactly you want, exactly like a desktop. So that's awesome. And what about these modules, configuration, all that? All these are already open source. Be mindful, this company do not give you exact schematics. They give you block diagram, which is really helpful, but they do not give you exact schematics of the motherboard. The reason for that is generally there is a clause, quote unquote. That clause is done by the engineering firm that built the damn thing. So they are like, there is some clause. Only big companies can like, Apple can actually give you schematics, but they are like, what if we F the customer? Wouldn't that be better? So they don't give you. Dell, Lenovo, these companies are big enough. They should have their own division that is building the motherboard, but they're like, what if we F the customer? This company is like, we get it. We not that big yet, so they actually give you the block diagram, which with a competent engineer they can like solve it and repair it, do basic repairs at least. But what about for these modules like keypads and numpads and all that? Just Raspberry Pi, bro. Raspberry Pi microcontroller and everything, schematics to pin diagram to voltage configuration, everything open source. Go YOLO on it. Meaning at least for those things that you interact with, you're like, hey, I like the keyboard, but you know, it just does not have the RGB flare. Other companies kind of like, we got you, fam. Or you're like, hey, I'm the tinkering type, I can build my own stuff. They're like, go bro, enjoy, have fun. You can go to PCB way and get your PCB made. So it's like, everything is open source, including the modules, everything. Other than the motherboard, you have full control of everything. Another, again, frameworks do want to give you the motherboard and they do give block diagrams, but complete schematics is still not there. So, but still compared to everything else, this is like masterpiece, golden work. So that's the aspect. The customer side is also awesome. Then we come to the main Achilles heel. The biggest issue with gaming laptops is their GPU always sucks and you can never replace them. So again, like if you have a laptop that has like high-end 3000 series GPU, if you can just swap that GPU with 4000, you can get same performance with less power consumption. But you can't do that because GPUs are not swappable. But here it can be done. They have built a PCI Express hot swap area, meaning these are the blocks, not hot swap would be wrong word. It does require like a screw drivers and all that. So I do find it odd they are showing like plugging out, like you can't plug it out. It screws in, but it's something that you can do, basically a replaceable thing, exactly like how your GPU is. So they are using PCI 4.0 8x slot. Now you're like, isn't 8x enough or like too little? Because again, we are used to 16x. PCI 4.0 8x more than good enough for desktop class GPU. And be mindful, GPU is the one that is doing the crunching. It does not need that much throughput. Like if you had a 100 GPS internet card, if you had a 100 GPS networking card, of course that needs 16 because again, it's dumping file from A to B. Here it does not need that. It's like more than good enough for, at least for laptop use, more than good enough. And they also give power. So this connection, now I feel like, hey, this connection looks familiar to Dell's new RAM module design. It's because it's literally ripped off from Dell. Now, not from the RAM module design. Dell actually wanted to try that, swappable GPU design, but because they did not open source it, nobody could support it. And again, the design was flawed. So they studied, basically, Framework studied the every other company that wanted to try it, be it MSI, be it Asus, or be it anything else. And they realized two core problems. First problem was it was never open source. So meaning nobody else can look into it and be like, hey, I can solve this problem, or this is how I work around it. Not open source. That was the biggest problem. Second, they never had any thought on cooling. Cooling was like, what if we have cooling of 35 watts? But that's it. It's like, dude, next GPU may require more than 35 watts. Even though your power delivery could deliver it, it's like, no, 35 watts. So thermal was bigger limit than basically power delivery. So This why they made it completely external and independent, meaning your cooling would be directly proportional to what you need. So that is the awesome part. So external module has the cooling and it's the cooling solution for laptop, meaning if you buy the laptop, you cannot have the option where it's like, I'm not going to put this. You have to put it. They're going to give you a basic module, which is just the cooling. Or you can put a dedicated GPU, which has cooling specified for that. For example, if they want to run everything else, basically CPU, RAM, memory and all that jazz, all that running on 100 watts, they have 100 watt left for GPU. They can have a module that is designed to cool 200 watt. Or sometimes they're going to like, hey, what if I have new GPU which is like very energy efficient and that's only consumes 50 watt for laptop, that would be still would be awesome. So 50 watt GPU, they're like, okay, put a cooling unit that is only designed to deal with 150 watt. Do not waste copper on if you do not need to. That's the whole point. That's why primary use is GPU modules, and you can actually expect a new improved further use rather than just like what we have today and lol tomorrow. No, what we have today and hopefully something awesome in tomorrow, or hopefully from different vendors also, because these are open source and they are sharing everything. Or I have already seen the PCB design, plug design, all those things are available right now on GitHub. You can see it and study it if you need to. Those there. So truly upgradable GPU is coming, own cooling solution that solves that issue. And here's the third party can also build it, meaning Asus can build it, and basically Intel should build it. If I were Intel, I would like to do it. Very amazing, basically what you call amazing representation right now. So this may be a a good way of doing it. It's like, don't offer it, like even if you have to sell it at at cost or at loss, just do it. Again, it will help you to figure things out. And again, the only way to solve driver issues is have it. So that can be done. And be mindful, many people may be like, hey dude, I love the 16-inch, I love the form factor, but I do not need the GPU. I just need the bigger display, I just need more parts. What the hell I'm going to do with this? Here's the deal, don't have this. Have this, which is same cooling, basically cooling for your CPU, but instead of having GPU, it has 2 NVMe extra ports. Again, you have this part, you can use it to whatever you want. And again, they are expecting other companies to build something else, like a very high speed networking if you need to like do something remote work or something like that, or like high end PCI Express card readers which are used in modern cameras. So those things can be done. So first time in history, hopefully we may actually get a laptop that actually has replaceable GPUs. So what we can expect in the future? The reality is they are launching in more and more countries, and it will take time to launch in India. And I have looked in their website. They are saying like it could expect by 2024, hopefully. And one thing you have to understand, Indian market is very price sensitive. So, and this device is a bit more expensive comparable to every other, but it saves you money in the long term, meaning laptops are a device that physically goes through things. Something will break, not today, but tomorrow something will break. It's a guaranteed. But if you can repair it, replace, rather than just like heating it, it saves you money in the long term. So if you are looking that way, only then this makes sense. If you're like, hey, I just throw away laptops every 1 year, what's the point? So it's a really something that price sensitive markets may not adopt as well as we are hoping. Another aspect is it's really awesome for Linux community. Why? Linux community is actually a community that can use open source data. They're like, hey, we want this, they can actually use it. So that's amazing, because many people want a Linux computer nowadays. It's like, why? Well, Linux supports DaVinci. DaVinci is actually working with Linux, and the benefit of that is because if you have a think of this, let's say a team of video editors and you give them Linux PC which does only one thing, it does basically video editing, they are actually productive. Why? DaVinci works very well, Linux has very little bloat, and you cannot externally put in games on it and all that jazz. So it's very little. And not to mention, because of Steam Deck, a lot of interest is going into Linux development. So Linux needs something like this laptop. Now, like, why this laptop? Yes, they have NVIDIA right now. NVIDIA does not support Linux properly. AMD does. So having this integrated GPU that is running on basically dedicated AMD hardware is desirable. So they can actually have that where you can have this laptop, you can run Linux on it, and because everything is open source and available, at least as much as can be, you can truly run Linux with full support. Like, they actually send their hardware to Ubuntu, Mint and all that. Like, they send them there. So day one launch, you can have a Linux system that actually works. So you can do a true video editing without ever touching Windows or Apple. Like, you can be like, damn, this is good, smooth, reliable. You can do that. And it actually reduces e-waste, because again, people have done stupid things, like somebody has poured water, somebody have dropped it, or punched the screen. Things of this nature do happen. And instead of eating the whole laptop, they're like, hey, what if we just eat that small part? Reduce part has already worked, so they are reducing e-waste. That's awesome. Customer saves money. That's why I am interested in it, because again, my desktop is ancient, but I have replaced part. I had a very bad power surge that boomed my power supply. Here's the deal. New power supply, me good. We had some stupid things that fried my motherboard. Eat RMA the motherboard, new motherboard, be good. Put more RAM into it so we can get more work out. Put new GPU in it so we can get more work out of it. Put new hard drives into it. Put in Blu-ray hard drive. All these things can be done on my desktop that is ancient at this point in time, but still works. Imagine a laptop future where we have that. One thing is odd is like so far they have not added a full size SD card module for them, which many people are frustrated. I think they have limited resources. They're like, let's get the 16 out before we divulge into add-ons. So somebody made them themselves. Like they figured out a USB-C card reader that was SD card only, and it works. So they opened it, filed the PCB, made a 3D print. Voila. That's amazing that somebody can do that. So customer saves money, and it's a true innovation after such a long time, where we are like, oh, what if our product was like, far more inferior, far quicker to die, instead of like, lasting, instead of surviving the Holocaust, it could only barely do anything. So it's really, really good that we have something that is coming close to being boom proof as possible. And market will support the developers, because again, this is their end goal, where you can have like, hey, somebody's like second display for it, take it and go. Whatever, like music deck for it, take it and go. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. We want a laptop that is reliable, long-lasting, and actually useful. Not just like, oh, it looks cool, man. But it's like, what if moisture happens? And then it's like, lol. This is really, really good. I'm really happy with this approach. And I hope they come into India and actually become successful, or at least wait to come to India, because again, we are price sensitive. So they may need a bit more oomph in their wallet to endure Indian market efficiently. So let's see what happens. I'm really happy about this. So this was my presentation on Framework 16 laptop. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.